just on time. We do.
Well, Freight Street took me 20 minutes. I came down Sunnyside to Freight, took 20 minutes to get to one, because it's one lane and it's a mess until they get it opened up again. But it's a big mess. So I don't know which way she's coming. But
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Waterbury Board of Education meeting. Tonight we have a commemoration during our prayer. Deputy Superintendent Henry.
In our moment of silence this evening, let us remember two teachers. Mrs. Maureen Lyon, a speech and language pathologist at Bunker Hill School, who passed away on October 4th, and Ms. Marilyn Miller, an English teacher at Crosby High School, who passed away on October 16th. Let us remember Mrs. Lyons and Ms. Miller and recognize their service and dedication to the students of Waterbury this evening.
Commissioner Awad, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome, everyone.
Commissioner Webb,
here.
Commissioner Harvey,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez, Vice President Rodriguez,
Here.
Commissioner Stango,
Here.
Commissioner Sweeney,
Here.
Commissioner Theriault. Here. Commissioner Jason Van Stone, Commissioner Tom Van Stone. Present. President Brown.
Present. Thank you. We have quite a bit of communications this evening. We have communication dated September 27th from Margaret Cayazzo regarding Supervisor of Special Education for Pre-K. Email communication dated September 29th from Mattia Sample regarding parking. Email communication dated September 29th from CABE regarding policy highlights. Copy of communication dated September 29th from Civil Service certifying Anita Ajari for the position of lunch aide. Copy of communication dated October 2nd from Civil Service to Caroline Niven regarding temporary cook appointment. Copy of communication dated October 2nd from Civil Service certifying Damari Garcia for the position of food service worker. Communication dated October 3rd from Margaret Cayazzo regarding the policy regarding toilet training. Number 8, copy of communication dated October 3rd from Civil Service certifying Nancy Bonacore and Brianna Ramirez Cruz for the position of lunch aide. Email communication dated October 5th from Mattia Sample regarding questions of fairness. Email communication dated October 5th from Mattia Sample regarding continued complaints. Copy of communication dated October 6th from Civil Service certifying Jacqueline Ayala for the position of food service worker. Copy of communication dated October 10th from Mark Ubaldi regarding injury incident of Kathleen Mayen. Email communication dated October 11th from Karen Rainville regarding displaced families. Email communication dated October 12th from Margaret Cayazzo regarding parents and students. Email communication dated October 12th from Atia Sample regarding a complaint. Email communication dated October 13th from CABE regarding highlights. Communication dated October 13th from Margaret Cayazzo regarding visit. Email communication dated October 16th from Margaret Cayazzo regarding the toilet training policy. Could I
Motion
please-
to receive and place on file communications as read.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Could I have a motion to suspend the regular order of business, please?
Motion to suspend the regular order of business to hear from the public.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All speakers are encouraged to submit prepared written statements to the commissioners. Comments shall be limited to maximum of 5 minutes. The chairman will asks everybody to speak with respect. There will be no responses this evening to any questions or concerns raised. They will be referred to the administration for review and response. Okay, first on the list is Danielle Albert.
Hi, everyone. Two things happened that brought me here tonight. The first was the article on the dress code policy, and the second was the fact that I received my daughter's SBAC results. Both of these items bring me to the subject of appropriate expectations. My oldest daughter scored below standard in both ELA and math. She didn't meet any expectation I had of her, nor of what she had for herself. She said to me, "Mommy, all of the kids had caution marks. It wasn't just me." I actually found myself as a parent justifying poor results to her. How horrible is that? I can't understand how a student who gets mostly A's and a few B's in school fell below standard in both of those areas. What I have seen every year is the horrendous SBAC results be justified. Excuses have been made and explanations have been given for why the results are so poor. Why are we lowering the expectations of our children? Because it seems to be happening in other places, even specific to our dress code. There are two very similar parallels. Is it the actual SBAC test that's the problem, or the manner in which lessons and curriculum are being delivered? Was it the actual dress code policy that's the problem, or the manner in which it was being enforced? With both of these situations, we are lowering the expectations of our children. The article quoted, "Dress code enforcement is not successful because we're suspending kids." Dealing with behavioral issues, there are consequences, and I don't believe anyone should be kept away from learning. That's absolutely not productive. Coming to school non-compliant is a behavioral issue, and in the real world, there are consequences for bad behavior. It's the job of this district to provide every resource possible to parents and guardians. However, there does come a point where the ownership lies at home. Whether you're raised by two sets of grandparents like myself or by an aunt because your mom is in jail, respect for authority and adherence to rules is part of life. In the real world, uniforms are everywhere. Our hospitals, Walmart, McDonald's, there is proper workforce attire. When they changed the uniform dress code at St. Mary's, we didn't necessarily love it, but it was part of our job, part of our real life adult responsibility to comply. Expectations are everywhere, and it's the job of this board to set, enforce, and support reasonable expectations. As a parent, do I feel it's a reasonable expectation to expect my children to be dressed properly for school? No hoodies mean no hoodies, no hats mean no hats, just like I can't go to work unless I'm wearing beige scrubs. Under no circumstances am I saying that suspending the first time is appropriate. All consequences need to be appropriate. But as a parent, I can't comprehend how the 3 steps prior to the out-of-school suspension weren't enough unless they weren't being enforced uniformly. I understand very well what some of our children face. However, no one can achieve success when the expectations are consistently being lowered. Do I, as a parent, have to change expectations of my children because of poor testing mechanisms, or because she can't wear a hoodie when she wants, or because we live here in Waterbury? Just be aware of the message this article is sending. Changing a policy like this, it publicly sends a message that if you violate a policy long enough or just continue to do poorly long enough, eventually those in charge will give in and lower their expectations. Thank you.
Is there anybody else from the public who wishes to speak this evening? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Erica Cooper. I live at 80 Ive Street. I'm here this evening because my daughter Shania had gotten into some trouble at school and it caused an altercation, and so I was called on my way going to work to pick her up from the police department because her and the young lady were arrested. I do a lot of work with the Board of Education and in the school system, so for me to have to stand up here and say that, it's heartbreaking, and I am angry and I'm upset. When I came in, it was on my face. I was upset. It was the first time I got to meet Michelle Baker. I wish I would have met her earlier because she seems like a genuine person that I could have went to and this situation could have been dealt with. My question for the board is, I thought that we were doing away with the arrest. What are we teaching these kids? So not only now was she arrested for an altercation where there were no weapons involved, but now there's 10 days out of school, 10 days that someone has to figure out who's going to watch her, making sure that her work gets done. I am heartbroken. I'm disgusted, and I want answers. Now I want to know from the board, for the last 2 months, how many kids in the public system have been arrested? How long is this going to go on? When are we going to stop? I'm not saying that children should get away with when they're doing things that they shouldn't. I'll be the first one to say that and the first one to reprimand my child. But I will not reprimand them by putting handcuffs on them and having them arrested. That's not the way we treat children. And I thought we were done with this, but evidently we are not. And I want answers.
Thank you, Erica.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Serrano Adorno, and I just want to keep it simple and welcome Dr. Henry aboard, and I'm looking forward to helping you connect with the families in our district. Bienvenido.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shakira Howard. I've been in a few meetings and I live on Plank Road. My son is in first grade in Gilmartin Elementary School. And I've been to several meetings with Title I, with Ms. Jorge as well. And it's just really discouraging to see all of the meetings and things that you guys have put in place for parents to be engaged with their school and participate. And I think 4 parents showed up at the first meeting that was at Reed last night. And not too many parents show up here. So I just want to encourage you guys, please don't stop setting these meetings up and these programs for the parents to attend. I know it's discouraging for me, and I haven't been doing it long at all, but I feel we need to hold these parents accountable and not always try to find ways on what you can add on to how we can help the family versus letting them know, hey, this is what's already in place, and you're expected to meet the school system where they are. I think it's embarrassing as a parent to stand here and ask for you guys to help us with our kids learning better and eating better just with the simple things when we can't even show up to a meeting that's designed to help us. So please just keep doing what you're doing. And if, as a parent, I can encourage other parents to come and attend and be active, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other public speakers, can I have a motion?
Motion to return to regular business?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. I want to go back. I missed approval of minutes of September 14th, 2017 workshop and September 21st, 2017 regular meeting. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve minutes of September 14th, 2017 workshop and September 21st, 2017 regular meeting.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure tonight for the first time to turn the mic over to our new Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Henry.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
This being my first meeting, I wanted to begin by simply sharing with you that I have received the most welcome appreciation for being here on the part of all staff and community members that I have met. So I am looking forward to continue to take a look at the many assets that our community school district has. And part of it involves my delight to be here and be part of this community, working alongside very accomplished educators that are actually working in behalf of our students in all of our schools. I wanted to underscore the fact that in coming in, we've established 3 goals, and that's what we'll be working at this point. And one is really to stabilize our district, ensure that there's a continuity of effort, as well as also ensuring that we're on the path to continue to progress under very focused leadership within the district. The second goal has to do with our students and making certain as well that we are focused on academic outcomes and their learning in very safe and protected environment. And the third one is the kind of thing that's taking place here tonight and that the parent just addressed, and that is in fact keeping our parents, our business and community partners informed of all of the activities that are taking place in our school district and their progress. So I'd also like to indicate that in looking at the format for our superintendent's report or announcements, we want to attempt to enhance that by including in our announcements any progress around the academic initiatives that the district is undertaking at this point, talking to you more about the facilities, the operations, and anything that is going to lead to the ongoing growth and lifelong learning of our students. So as part of that, we are anticipating taking a closer look and sharing with you the data points that are germane to the work that we do day in and day out. That is part of our vision, part of our mission. And so they also are the major portion of the strategies that we attempt to work with and implement in our educational process. So things like attendance data, last links, which has to do with our bilingual students, reading, M-class assessments, I-Ready math, the Khan Academy. All of those are part of the measures that we utilize, and we want to actually come before you with more frequent information around that. It's what we measure in our smarter balance assessment and our SATs. So we anticipate that during the board's workshops, we will present there, but come back and in this forum, and as part of the superintendent's report, share it with the rest of the community. As part of this first item on the agenda, tomorrow is when I begin visiting schools, and I'm looking forward to all of the activities that are taking place within our schools, and promise to come back from time to time and share with you what I've learned in that process. All right? So that's just the first announcement. Now, the second one is, I'm going to say there were two schools that participated in the United Way bed race this past Saturday. Hopeville School as well as Westside Middle School, yes. And they had the highest participation in terms of the fundraising campaign that the United Way conducts. I'll say that both schools had very colorful, decorated beds. Westside adopted a theme, as I understand, Westside Warriors, which has to do and a play with the character, the video character of Mario's. And Hopeville were donning pink clothing. Hopeville goes pink. And that's the theme related to breast cancer awareness. I understand our own Darren Shorts was actually running alongside the Hopeville team.
Yeah.
And our own president, Liz Brown, was on hand to cheer on the schools. So our congratulations for participating in that. Hopeville, apparently, they lost one of their wheels of the original bed in the first heat. The third announcement is our congratulations to Marcy Pesky, a physical education teacher out of Chase School, for achieving the 2016-2017 Outstanding Rookie of the Year recognition from the American Heart Association in relationship to Jump Rope for Heart event. Another announcement has to do with the fact that more than 400 of our students, representing 9 of our middle and high schools, will be attending a great debate that's going to be held tomorrow at the Webster Bank Arena in Bridgeport. There'll be students from Harvard as well as Howard universities debating each other and covering topics of interest. And it's a learning opportunity for our students, and we're happy to see that they'll be attending, as well as the fact that it's being sponsored by the Connecticut State NAACP. The city is also having their usual Mardi Gras, as I understand, Halloween Comic Fest. And it'll be held this Saturday, October 28th, from 11 to 3 o'clock at the Silas Bronson Library. The Bucks Hill School third annual parade is going to be held this Tuesday, October 31st, from 1 to 2:30. And students will select, design, and showcase chosen vocabulary words that they will parade around the school with. The Waterbury Korea Academy's Science National Honor Society will be conducting their induction ceremony, and this will take place on Thursday, November 2nd, from 5:30 to 7:30. During this month, our schools are continuing to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. Tomorrow evening, I understand at Gilmartin School, they will be holding their celebration from 6 to 7:30 at the school, and the district-wide celebration will be held next Friday morning, beginning at 9 a.m. at Wilby High School. I want to take a moment of privilege simply to say a few words in Spanish to the Spanish-speaking families, and it's simply to say that, aunque no voy a traducir todo lo que he acabado de presentar en inglés, quisiera simplemente indicarles que nuestro sistema escolar, nuestras oficinas, están abiertos para ustedes y su participación con nosotros es importante y bienvenida. All it indicates is that Spanish-speaking folks, and everybody, but in this case, as we are addressing the Spanish-speaking community, that their participation in our school system is important and that we welcome them. And so it's based on that I simply like to say thank you for listening to my first report, and this concludes the superintendent's report at this point. Thank you.
Muy bien. Commissioner Vanstone.
Thank you, Madam President. I can't interpret anything I want to say in Spanish. I'm sorry. However, one of my things is certainly curriculum. And I did send out an email today that I included you on, sir, to continue to review and improve curriculum throughout our district. We had a major accomplishment a couple months ago to put forward our ELA curriculum. I hope we have the same commitment that we had to continue to move forward on all curriculum and have your support in the meetings we have. It's been a great, the teachers have been very up forward with helping us develop curriculum. I'm not sure you're aware that some of our curriculum has not been approved by this board in over 20 years.
I am aware.
A lot has happened in 20 years. Okay. So I hope moving forward from me as chair of curriculum, you will have our interest and support going forward on curriculum, because we're way behind the times. So I would like you to pledge your support And if you want to change things, that's fine. But however, we need to move forward on establishing curriculum. So thank you.
If I may, that work has begun. From day one is a kind of assessment that I've attempted to do to make certain that I know what's there. I think if you speak to cabinet, if you speak to principals, that's the statement I've made. The interest is to, yes, determine what's in place, but at the same time, I recognize that we need to accelerate. And so the commitment is there coming in the door that we will work to ensure that we have a 21st century setting for youngsters, and that includes the curriculum. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Henry. Okay, so I just wanted to really thank the school district and the Office of Early Childhood for working together to welcome our children who are displaced by the hurricane in Puerto Rico. I think the last date I heard, yesterday I heard we have about 50 children who have come to our school district, and they all are being welcomed and placed, and they all are part of the McKinney-Vento program, which allows us to give them backpacks and give them supports. We also have a partnership with the Stay Well Clinic, who have really stepped up and are going to be giving the kids physicals, and we're trying to find out how we can get the records for immunizations and so forth. But we have a formal partnership with Stay Well, and look forward to really solidifying these partnerships in the community as we expect more families to come to us. But I really appreciate the work thus far of our Waterbury Public Schools and staff and the staff at the Office of Early Childhood, who have really stepped up and really welcomed our families in these very, very difficult, traumatic times for these families. So really appreciate all the work everybody's doing. Thank you. Okay, consent calendar. Is there anybody who would like to remove an item from the consent calendar? Commissioner Theriault.
I'd like to remove 9.2 and 9.3, please.
Okay. Okay. The following items will be on the consent calendar. 9.1, request approval of the submission of the 2017-19 Title III grant application. 9.4, request approval of the revised administration of medications policy. Number 5141.21. 9.5, request approval of the new directory information policy, number 5145.15. 9.6, use of school facilities by school organizations and/or city departments. 9.7, use of school facilities by outside organizations and/or waiver request. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent calendar, items 9.1, 9.3 through 9.7.
Second. 9.4.
9.4, sorry.
Second.
I apologize. 9.1, 9.4 through 9.7.
Thank you. Discussion?
That's right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, going back to 9.2, Commissioner Sweeney.
With the approval of the Committee on Policy, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools recommends approval of the revised Disciplined Student Conduct Policy, number 5114, as attached.
Second.
Discussion. Could you just remind us what the policy is, and then we'll have discussion? I'm sorry, go ahead. For the public.
The policy has been revised to align consequences with the state code. So most of it was not in alignment with the state code. And to specify the level of offense, levels are 1 through 4, and the consequences are aligned with the levels.
Thank you. Commissioner Theriault, please.
Yeah, probably should first start with Mrs. Cooper's comments, and you know, if this were my son or my daughter, I'd have the same kind of passion in speaking before the board. We take far too many kids and arrest them. Years ago, it was a little fisticuffs and a little scramble, and you know, we took them and we suspended them for 3 days each, and then we went around they came back, they shook hands, and they went on their merry way, boys and girls.
Point of order, Commissioner Thuria, could you, I appreciate your points. Can
Yeah.
you wait until the end, and we'll just stick to this issue before us, and then you can speak to that issue
Sure.
in other business?
Sure.
Thank you.
So I'll go on, but I think it's part of the thing. I don't think I'm out of order at all, but I'll bow to your power. So the realignment with the state laws and rules and regulations seems appropriate and fair, but I'm not really all that familiar with all of them. So I'll refrain until the end of the meeting, and we can pick it up, even though I think it's germane now. All right, it's okay.
Any other comments? Commissioner Awad?
I think that we spend a lot of time talking about a dress code and not enough time talking about what happens in a classroom as far as learning experiences. I am an advocate of the dress code. I was the one that was the most disappointed when we can't wear white shirts, if you'll all recall. But I think that this board has to take a hard look at what it spends its time on. I appreciate the frustration of the teachers on a daily basis trying to figure out what's dress code, what's not dress code. I'm frustrated by today's youth across the board with their inability to understand that there are rules that they have to follow. I'm frustrated that when you leave the house, the first person that should be checking whether or not you're in line with the dress code is your legal guardian, be it your mother, your father, your grandmother, your aunt, whoever is in charge of you. There are rules. They need to be followed. There are outcomes to behaviors, positive and negative. So we'll address this and we'll try to make it more palatable, because I do believe we need to lessen any reduction or impact to learning time. But I think this board needs to spend more time worrying about what's going on during that learning time.
Thank you. I don't believe this is the dress code policy. The next one is, but
Yeah.
9.3, correct?
Okay.
Any other discussion on the general alignment 9.2? Commissioner Sweeney?
Just to be fair, the adjustment to the consequences for the dress code policy is a part of this policy. So dress code violations are now a level 1 or level 2 offense, and the consequences stop at in-school suspension. There is no longer any out-of-school suspension, not just for dress code, for any level 1 or level 2 offense.
Thank you for that
Just wanted to
clarification.
be clear about that.
So all level 1 offenses are across the board. Okay. Commissioner Stango? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Thuria?
That being said, I'll revert to my original policy that I was speaking about with regard to the offenses, because it seems that we're intermingling 9.2 and 9.3. So that being said, you know, I thought long and hard over the weekend here about some of the remarks that commissioners made regarding poverty in our school system and regarding the inability of students to adhere to the dress code. And I thought long and hard about this. Having been an educator, a principal, and a teacher in the Waterbury system for 32 years, and having spent over 40 years in education, I really did a lot of soul searching. And I really feel the commissioners that made those remarks, that said some kids are so poor that they can't adhere to the dress code or uniform policy. If that is true, if one student is so poor that they can't adhere to that policy, then that policy should be thrown out. But I believe that every single one of the 19,000 kids can adhere to the policy, for the very same reason some of the commissioners had said: checking the kids as they go out the door, encouraging them to dress appropriately. I will address Mrs. Cooper's remarks at the end of the meeting because I have been guided there. But when we talk about the dress code or uniform policy, what are we really talking about here? Are we talking about the color of the shirt at this day and age? A blue shirt? A white shirt? If you wear an orange shirt, you're out of dress code? That's uniform. I can remember going to St. Margaret's. We had to wear a tie. We had to have that little insignia from St. Margaret's on our tie, or later on our shirt. That was a dress code. This is more like a uniform policy. We can't wear denim. We can't wear denim because we don't want them to wear denim and have rips in the denim and look terrible. We don't want them to wear their pants when their pants are sagging and go around telling all the kids, pull up your pants, pull up your pants, pull up your pants. No denim, no hoodies. No hoodies. And kids are at the bus stop. They can use the hoodie to keep themselves warm, but they can't wear the hoodie in school. Why is that? Because they'll take the hoodie and they'll put it over their head and they'll run away. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous remark. So there's all kinds of things within this uniform, quote, dress code policy that are absolutely ridiculous in this day and age. I don't know where we're coming from in terms of some of these requirements, but I think given the poverty in Waterbury and the surrounding areas, I don't see any reason why any kid can't adhere to the policy, even the way it is, even with the colors, which I take offense to. I think it's ridiculous. You have to have a collared shirt. What if you don't have a collared shirt? Got to have a collared shirt. We're going to make the collar for you. I remember back in the days you used to have a tie. So if the kids didn't come in with a tie, we made a tie out of construction paper, and the kid walked around with a tie. It looked ridiculous. I violated the dress code. So let's talk about the dress code. So we had 150 kids or so that were in violation of the dress code, and we suspended them all. The principal did. Did we look to see if any of those kids were at stage 4? If any of those kids actually deserved a suspension for the 4th violation of the dress code? No. We just gave them blanket amnesty, and we said no. And better yet, we changed the policy that we're not going to suspend them anymore for the dress code violations. So it's not going to be stage 1, stage 2. It can be stage 8, 9, 10. There's no out-of-school suspension. There's just an in-house suspension. And maybe that's as it should be. If we can get the student to cooperate, take off his hoodie, take off his hat, change his or her shirt to the right color. Jeez. I don't know. So as we go forward, we look at this policy and we say, okay, no more suspensions for a violation of the dress code. What message are we sending to the students that we're going to water down the dress code policy? Yes, commissioners have said no student should be suspended for a violation of the dress code and taken out of the classroom. They are being taken out of the classroom, put in in-house suspension, but supposedly they're still learning. They're not at home doing nothing. They're not using the violation of the dress code as an impetus to get suspended and stay home. There's a whole lot of things in here that don't meet with modern day philosophy of what's going on. And I think the policy committee needs to go back and they need to tweak that policy up a little bit more. I can see, as I said before, no clothing should be worn to school, whether it's denim or otherwise, that's torn and ragged. But if students want to come in with appropriate clothing that's a different color, then they certainly shouldn't be sent home or forced to change, I feel. So I agree with some of what other commissioners have said, that we need to spend less time on the enforcement of the discipline code and the dress code, and we need to spend more time on academia. We need to spend more time in looking at the results of the standardized test, which, by the way, I have given to the newspaper 4 times, and they don't seem to be able to get the results from the state either. So it's been over a month, and we haven't done one report from the Republican and American about our 32 failing schools, every single one of them. Off on another tangent, but still part of the discipline and dress code. So I'll leave it at that. And as we go forward, I hope we can tweak this up a little bit better and address the needs of the students and address the needs of the students that are engaged in heavy, heavy poverty in this town. Thank you.
Commissioner Van Stone, then Commissioner Stango.
Thank you, Madam President, through you. I think you could tell from my line of questioning last week I wasn't excited about watering down this policy. I understand the arguments for it, and it's not that part of my heart doesn't want to kind of go that way, but I always worry that we tend to tinker with the ends and assume the means will figure themselves out. So the argument is that we want to show the state that we have less suspensions, which is something I think everyone would love to do. Simply creating a policy that doesn't allow us to suspend, I don't think is the right way to go about that. That doesn't change behavior. That doesn't improve kids' lives. So we had just over 1,500 kids in 15-16 suspended for dress code violations. That's a lot of kids. That's it's about 1/4 of all our suspensions. You put it that way, it seems like a lot of suspensions. But then when you think about we have 19,000 kids in the district, all of a sudden now we're talking about 8% who are having trouble following the dress code to the point where we suspend them. Or another way of looking at that is we have 92% of the kids doing just fine. So 92% of our student body every day can get up, put on the collared shirt, put on the right colors, do whatever they have to do to succeed in their school day. If we had 92% of our kids reaching proficiency on our statewide exams, we'd be doing dances. If we had 92% of our kids being accepted into 4-year colleges or the military or into a good paying jobs, we'd throw a parade for ourselves. I think discipline works. I don't want to suspend any kid. But at the same time, if you allow a very small minority of the kids to determine what our policy is, simply because we choose not to stick to our guns or we want to make someone in Hartford happy with our number, I think that's the wrong way to go. I think that, and I do this with my own kids, they need to know where the line is. Because if they don't, they'll just continue to cross it. And if part of our goal is sending these kids out to be productive adults at some point, as the speaker said, they're going to find a real world out there that doesn't give them 4 chances before they're in trouble. I think it's incumbent on us and our teachers and administrators to teach them that lesson just as much as it is to teach them the 3 R's. If we don't do that, then we're failing the kids. Thank you, Madam President.
Commissioner Stango.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to wait to the next item because it addresses the code again rather than put it all in one. So if you don't mind, I'll have comments on the next item.
Okay. Commissioner Van Stone, on, I guess we're still on 9.2.
This was a softball for me. Our 95 percenters, my 95 percenters that I speak so often about, are doing the right thing. Let's stop rewriting policy to make the other 5% okay. And that's all I'll say. My 95 percenters, our 95 percenters do the right thing. Let's stop pleasing those that don't want to do the right thing. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please take the roll on 9.2.
Commissioner Watt?
Yes.
Commissioner Harvey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez? I'm sorry. Vice President Rodriguez?
Yes.
Commissioner Stango?
Yes?
Commissioner Sweeney?
Yes.
Commissioner Theriot?
No.
Commissioner Jason Van Stone?
No.
Commissioner Tom Van Stone?
No.
President Brown?
Yes.
6-3, motion passes.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Sweeney, 9.3.
With the approval of Committee on Policy, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools recommends approval of the revised school attire policy number 5132 as attached.
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Stango.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to be clear from the beginning that this policy is not softening the dress code. The dress code is the dress code, and myself, like some members of the board, are in favor of the dress code, have always been. This district has worked too long and too hard on it. This district has gone to court at the cost of many thousands of dollars to find that we are in compliant to be able to demand a dress code. So I'm in favor of keeping it. I thought long and hard, like Commissioner Theriot, over the weekend too, and I can come to the conclusion that this really should not be hard. There's no reason why it's hard that I can understand. I can understand if a child comes home and can't do his homework because he doesn't get the Shakespeare, or he doesn't get the Algebra 2, or he doesn't understand that, or doesn't understand this, and he goes to school the next morning and he tells his teacher, I can't do my homework, I don't have it. I understand that. I do not understand why this child can go to school and tell the principal, I'm not in code because I choose not to be in code. That's totally different. I don't understand how anyone can do that. You either follow the dress code or you don't follow the dress code. Following the dress code is easy. It should not be difficult. Either you do it or you don't. It's a matter of personal responsibility. Again, too much time could be taken in the school about the dress code. Too much time is taken by this board with enforcing the dress code, but the dress code is the dress code. And the way I look at it, the elementary schools, from what I understand, it's not a big deal. Those children pretty much adhere to the dress code. Occasionally, now and then, it'll be my mom's washing machine broke down. I didn't have the shirt. I'm sorry. Here's the shirt. Put it on. Fine. No argument. Middle schools, not so much, but still pretty much compliant. The problem is the high schools. And I do not, as I said before, I just do not understand it. I visited 2 schools in New Haven, not recently, but 3-4 years ago. And it was a high school. And granted, it was a magnet school, but it was a public school. And those kids all had 3-button shirts on, khaki pants. Never an issue. Never an issue. Never said, I don't have the pants, I don't have the shirt. They just had it. They just did it. It was not a discussion. Nobody went around saying, thank you for being in code today. Thank you. They just did it. And I was impressed with that. So I think we need to, at the risk of wasting time, I don't think it's wasting time, but at the risk of taking time away from what we do to study why and if children achieve and make them achieve more, is to find out what the heck is wrong with the kids, whatever, 5%, 3%, 6%, not adhering to the code continually. Something is wrong, something is short-circuited. So I think going forward, I would like to hear at some point from the principals of the 3 comprehensive high schools. Again, the other high schools that we have, the specialty high schools, don't seem to have that problem. The 3 comprehensive high schools seem to be burdened with it. So I'd like to hear the reasons why those principals think that these kids are not adhering to the code. And if I can also draw on Mr. Henry on our first night, welcome. With your experiences in other urban schools, and I know that some of them have a dress code. If you can draw from your experiences and tell us what you think of why our students don't seem to follow the dress code. It should not be an issue, and it is an issue, and I'd like to find out why. But I, again, not interested in softening that code at all. Softening the consequence, in a sense, may help them, but let's look into it. I thank you.
So I would be happy to look
I didn't mean
into
to
it.
put you on the spot now,
No,
Mr.
I
Henry.
understand, and I won't answer you at this point, but I will in fact assess what's taking place here and compare it to some of my other experiences. So maybe I can
Yes.
contribute something that helps
That would be great.
alleviate the situation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sweeney.
I just want to, as a point of information, want to make sure that we all understand the only thing that is changing in the dress code policy is that the consequences are listed in the policy. We are removing the consequences because the consequences are in the policy that we just approved. Okay, so this is strictly the removal. Nothing else in the dress code is changing. Strictly the removal of the consequences we're voting on.
Okay. Thank you for that
Thank you.
clarification. Commissioner Theriault.
First of all, ditto to everything I said before. I don't want to keep you here all night by saying the same thing I said before. But it seems that this whole thing initiated because of progressive discipline on the dress code. We're supposed to give them a warning, warning, and then on the 4th offense, we're supposed to give them, at the time when we had this policy in place, an out-of-school suspension. I don't know at what point we consider an in-school suspension, maybe at the 2nd or 3rd step. But that being said, as I said before, we never looked at the students to see what students were at stage 4, what students were continual offenders. So we throw the baby out with the bathwater and we say, no more out-of-school suspensions. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. Maybe the students will say, hey, listen, they're going to work with me, I'm going to work with them, and I'm going to take the hoodie off, I'm going to take the hat off, and I'm going to adhere to the policy. They hate in-school suspension. They hate in-school suspension even more than they hate out-of-school suspension. They really hate it because they don't want to be in one room. But my concern, as I said before at the last meeting, is a tremendous influx if these same students do not adhere to the policy. And it's true. We haven't changed the policy. We've tweaked the consequences. In tweaking the consequences, have we sent a message to the students, we're going to do in-house, we're going to do in-house. And at what point does the chronic offender or the more belligerent student cross the line and go from a violation of the discipline code to a violation of other codes of conduct? We could beat this to death with a hammer all night, but I think for myself, we're making a big mistake in going backwards on the policy and not forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wad?
Yes.
Commissioner Harvey?
Yes.
Vice President Rodriguez?
Yes.
Commissioner Stango?
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Yes.
Commissioner Theriot?
No.
Commissioner Jason Van Stone?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes. It's just a secretarial move, so yes.
Commissioner Tom Van Stone?
You said yes.
President Brown?
Yes.
7-1 motion, no, 8-1 motion.
Okay, thank you all very much. Superintendent's notification to the board. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to place on file superintendent's notification to the board 11.1, short one, through 11.4.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. All right, let's see. Next on the agenda is unfinished business, a preceding meeting only. Commissioner Van Stone.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, as I will always make note, item 11.4, those are our teachers that have gone above and beyond to continue their education. Adult learners are very close to me, and I appreciate, I didn't do a head count, but my goodness, we have a lot of people here who have achieved additional steps in their professional resume, and I certainly hope we are letting them know that we appreciate it. Okay, so again, I didn't, and I'm not about to do math in public. There's a lot of folks there. So I really, really appreciate that folks want to continue their education and keep on moving. I will point out the only thing is I don't see any Fairfield University, which is my disappointment. But I do greatly appreciate those who have continued and made our schools better by continuing their education. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. Okay, 13, other unfinished, new and miscellaneous business, and then we'll be followed by an executive session this evening. And Commissioner Theriot.
Yes, getting back to Mrs. Cooper's dilemma. Speaking as a parent of 3 students that all graduated from college and did have some occasional stealing the report cards from the mailbox and things like that, and a few fisticuffs occasionally. If my son had gotten arrested and was down at the police department and he had to have a check mark next to his name for being arrested, and that was going to follow him through life, I would be greatly, greatly dismayed. Commissioner Harvey has championed this for many, many years while she's been on the board, and has encouraged diligence and progressive discipline rather than suspending students and getting them out of school suspended and arrested. She has encouraged us to look at the pathology of what caused the fights in the first place. I think we need to do more of that, because I think we have had far fewer arrests. But to have one arrest is, if you're the parent of the kid that's arrested, you're very disturbed by it, regardless of whether your student was at fault or the other student was at fault. It comes a point where you got to go back to your corner and kind of cool down. So my sympathy with regard to that situation. The changes in our discipline code and with regard to our dress policy I've already addressed, and I have some other items that I want to address right now. And that would be, I have a question to the president of the board and the superintendent about this new position that's created for the Spanish students that are being displaced and coming from Puerto Rico here, this new position that has been created. Is this a Board of Ed job, or is this a job for the city?
I believe it to be a joint responsibility,
Yeah.
funded through the McKinney-Vento, and based on that, it's an umbrella that encompasses city services as well as the educational ones.
Okay. That being said, if it were a Board of Ed job, it would seem like we would go to our Personnel Committee and we would have a job description for this job. And I'm sure that if we developed a job description, we would make it mandatory that this person spoke Spanish or is bilingual at the very least. Roxanne Augelli is an outstanding individual, an outstanding candidate for this job. And by the way, her experience comes from Washington School and supervisor of special ed, not Hopeville, where I was the principal. So she has excellent credentials, excellent education. She's given years and years of service to the city, both in special ed and as a principal and teacher. She's an outstanding candidate. But you see, I have a little problem with somebody coming on full-time that's collecting a city pension. Because we have an ordinance in the city that says people that are collecting pensions can't come into a situation as a full-time employee. It's a violation of the Board of Aldermen ordinance. But I guess we don't really care about that, do we?
Okay.
Wouldn't it be, wait a minute, I'm making a point.
No, I just wanted to clarify, but go ahead, yep.
You can clarify when I'm done. So I guess we don't really care about that right now. We can have the people come back, work the full-time job, and collect the city and state pension, whatever. Okay. I get that. So is this a new precedent that we will establish? That the Board of Ed will look the other way and say, no, it's not our job. I think it is our job. I think it is our job, and I don't care if it's a temporary job or not. I think this board is the appointing authority. With all due respect to the mayor, I know he wants to do the right thing. I know Mr. Brinker wants to do the right thing. I know his board wants to do the right thing. But I think we should be the appointing authority. Not read about it in an email last night from Mr. Brinker and then read about it in the paper this morning. At the very least, this should have come to the board last week or tonight and discussed. As I said, no disparaging remarks about Roxanne Augelli. She's outstanding. We've taken many of our retired principals and school administrators back occasionally to do part-time things. This seems like it's a full-time position, and it could be in violation of the Board of Aldermen ordinance. We certainly have to do something with regard to I think we're going to have a tremendous amount of kids that are coming back into the city of Waterbury from Puerto Rico. I worked 28 out of my 32 years in the South End. I had nothing but fantastic relationship with the Hispanic community and the Puerto Rican community. Wonderful, wonderful people. So as we go forward, you know, we need to bring the students in, welcome them in, even though they're undocumented with regard to medicals and other things. We need to do all we can to lessen the traumatic relocation from Puerto Rico to here, and do all we can to make sure their educational progress resumes as soon as possible. And I think this move is a good move on the part of the mayor and a good move on the part of the board. but I don't want to be turning my head the other way every time we make an appointment. You know, we turned our head the other way when we had the voluntary appointment of the executive director's position. Remember? We didn't vote on that. We didn't discuss that. But this is a position that seems more in line, you know, more in line with the Board of Education. And I would have felt more comfortable if it had gone to the Policy Committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Van Stone, then Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Extraordinary and desperate times, that's when leadership steps forward. We are putting someone in place to deal with what is now approaching 60 students who we need to educate. I will tell you from my experience, I'm a program manager for a helicopter at a major corporation that we make for the Air Force of Canada. I don't speak French. But my background has said I can still manage that program. I would like to tell a story, if I may, of back when I was in 5th grade, which I could mumble and say it was like the mid-60s, that a young man came into our 5th grade class at St. Patrick's School in Bridgeport. He could not speak English. He was from Cuba. And those of us that are old enough to remember those coming to our shores from Cuba were dealing with, as drastic as a hurricane is, some tremendous situations. That person, who is still to this day a friend of mine, his name is Armando Perez. As we sit here today, he is the superintendent of police in Bridgeport, Connecticut. We need to do everything possible to make these children welcome. We need to do everything possible to have the right manager in place. And I am fully confident that we have the right people in place that understand the language difficulties that may come with that. Did we get bypassed a little bit on this announcement? We probably did. And normally, I would be the first one screaming. But extraordinary times requires extraordinary reaction from those of us in charge. We should move forward. I don't know if we could ever have had a plan in place to deal with this. I really don't. I don't. So I'm okay with moving forward. I think the right decision was made, not just the person, but just the reaction to make sure someone is managing this situation. And again, I don't speak French, but the Canadian government is getting their helicopter. So thank you.
Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you. My just brief comment regarding the situation and the appointment, I responded to the mayor that I have no problems with Roxanne Jelly, but I just want to make sure that there is a department within our district that has the expertise And I just want to make sure that that person, the supervisor, in the bilingual education department is utilized, because she already has established those relationships that the mayor talked about. Okay, so I just want to make sure of that. She's excellent. So just two quick things. One is I want to go back to the great debate and thank Gladys Wright and Jeff Hunter for organizing this. 400 students, that's not an easy task to organize. And the great debate goes back to in 1930 when HBCU, Wiley College, debated Harvard University and won. And at that point, that was unheard of. So this is a tradition. This is now Howard versus Harvard. So looking forward to see who wins that. And then lastly, I'm always sorry to hear about one of our students. That just touches me when I hear that someone is arrested, especially one of our children. I only hope that we have homework set up for the student who will be out of school. That is a pet peeve of mine, because we suspend them out of school and we don't provide the homework. So I only hope that those arrangements can be made, and that we continually, if someone receives out-of-school suspension, that the first thing we do is to ensure that the student has homework. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are now going to go into executive session.
Motion to convene into executive session for discussion concerning the appointment, employment, performance evaluation, health, or dismissal of a public officer or employee.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Thank you very much.